Are you ready to unlock growth, build resilience, and confidently take the next step in leadership, career, and faith? Welcome to The Next Move. I'm Orvin Kimbrough, a CEO, author, and leader with a passion for helping people and organizations thrive. My journey from foster care to CEO has fueled my mission to help professionals scale their confidence, leadership, and influence through mindset shifts, expanded networks, and bold action. Each week, I'll share reflections ripped straight from my blog to inspire and empower you with actionable insights. Let's get started and make your next move your best move. Welcome back to The Next Move, the podcast where we explore faith, leadership, and personal growth to help you take your next step with purpose and confidence. Folks, I'm your host, Orvin Kimbrough, and today we are diving into something real, something raw. This episode is called When the Rules Betray the Truth. So let me ask you something. Have you ever followed all the rules and still felt like you betrayed yourself? We are living in a time when the lines between right and wrong are being blurred, not just in headlines, but in boardrooms, in community, in classrooms, in quiet conversations, a time when image often matters more than integrity, and doing what's popular feels easier than doing what's principled. And yet, the call to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly, folks, it still stands. And it always will. Let's start right here in Micah 6:8. He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? What does the Lord require of you but to act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God? This sounds simple, right? But what do you do when justice collides with doing your job? What do you do when what's legal doesn't feel right? Let's talk about it. There's a moment I'll never forget. It came while watching two films that hit me like a freight train. You may have seen them: The Devil's Advocate and A Time to Kill. In The Devil's Advocate, Keanu Reeves plays this ambitious lawyer. He was defending a man accused of abusing a young girl. There's this haunting scene. The girl is on the stand. She's telling her story, and the accused, he just sits there. He sits there almost replaying what she's talking about in his mind. He sits there with this smug little smile. My stomach turned, and I thought, this cannot be right. Why would we defend this? What kind of system rewards someone for representing what their soul knows is evil? It made me realize ethics are about codes and rules. Morality is about the soul. Then I watched a Time to Kill. Samuel L. Jackson plays a father whose daughter is assaulted. He takes justice into his own hands. He kills the individuals who rapes his daughter. And I actually found myself rooting for him, desperate for the jury to set him free. That same justice system that demands law and order, suddenly it felt unjust. And I couldn't ignore the questions. What happens when the system is right, but your soul knows it's wrong? What happens when following the rules feels like betraying the truth? Let's go a little deeper. Even in scripture, yes, the sacred God-breathed words, Even scripture can be twisted when interpretation is hollow. There's that verse, you know it, slaves, obey your earthly masters. Well, this verse was used and it was abused to justify the American form of slavery. It became ethical, it became ethical in the eyes of society. But it was a betrayal. It was a betrayal of God's heart. Did you catch that? When truth is detached from context, even holy words can become weapons. That's why it's not enough to simply follow the rule book. You've got to listen to your conscience. Let's bring this home. Because leadership, it doesn't give you the luxury of distance. It puts the tension right in your lap. I've made decisions that were legal and ethical and still gut-wrenching. I've had to terminate employees I cared about. I've had to suspend pensions to keep the company alive. I've had to take away long-term incentive programs to keep company afloat. I've had to draw cutoff lines that impacted real families. And I'll be honest, those weren't just decisions. Folks, anybody that's making those decisions, anybody who has the weight of that, these are burdens. There were nights I couldn't sleep. Faces flashed through my mind. Numbers became names, reports became stories. And one question always came back. Am I hiding behind what's allowed or standing up for what's truly right? Am I doing what's truly right for the long term of the business, the long term of the people, the long term of the families? Let me share a personal moment I'll never forget. I was sitting across from someone. I was listening to what he was proposing. Folks, what he was proposing, it was legal. It may have even been strategic, but something in me screamed, this isn't right. I know you've had those moments. Something in me screamed, this isn't right. My head said we could probably do this, but my gut said, you'll regret this. I looked at him and I said, there's no way. There is absolutely no way I'm doing this. It would require you and me to have divided loyalties and incentive structure that isn't about advancing the core business. If I went by what we could do quietly without much fanfare, I'd win, he'd win, but the truth, the core business would have most definitely lost because the focus would have shifted. Our focus would have shifted from purpose to incremental dollars. I risked my relationship with him in that moment. I risked my relationship by standing firm and challenging his thinking. But if I hadn't, I would have risked everything. And that tension, folks, that tension hasn't left me since. That's why Micah 6:8, it matters so much. It is not a slogan. Micah 6:8 is not a performance review. It's a radical call to alignment. Act justly. Love mercy. Walk humbly. That's not minimum living. Folks, that's maximum obedience. Because ethical leadership isn't about being technically right. It's about being morally true. It's about protecting dignity, not just preserving profit. It's about choosing courage. Sometimes you have to choose courage You have to choose courage over compliance. So here's the real question. Will you settle? Will you settle for following the rules? Or will you have the courage? Listen to me. Will you have the courage to follow the truth? Because the world is not suffering. It's not suffering from a lack of rule followers. Folks, it's starving for truth tellers, for justice seekers, for mercy lovers, for people who will walk humbly when arrogance would be easier. Anybody, any one of us can play it safe. Anybody, any one of us can stay in the lines. But few rise above the rules to answer the higher call. And if you're listening to this, maybe it's because you feel that call. You stood in front of a decision that tested your soul. You've looked in the mirror and wondered, is this right or just required? So today, I challenge you, be one of the few led by truth. Be one of the few anchored in conscience, because someone's freedom, someone's dignity, someone's humanity, someone's livelihoods, someone's reputation, someone's future may depend on your courage. I'm Orvin Kimbrough, and this has been The Next Move. If this podcast moved you in any way, please share it with your network. Until next time, stay bold, stay anchored. Thank you for tuning in to The Next Move. I hope today's reflection inspired you to take the next step in your leadership, career, or faith journey. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need a little encouragement this week. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you'd like more reflections or resources, visit orvinkimbrough.com or theaccidentalbanker.com. Until next time, remember, every step you take brings you closer to thriving. Let's keep moving forward together.